Gemini 4, holly and mistletoe. We think of Christmas when we think of holly and mistletoe. It's often used to decorate our Christmas tree, which is brought indoors into the lounge and next to the fire and so on. And it's a pretty little coziness at that cozy time of year nowadays. But of course, holly and mistletoe go way back, a long, long time before the Christian era. They were powerful trees within the Druidic tradition, Celtic lore, and they have magical properties, and they drew up associations within the people, so that holly meant this and mistletoe meant that, and you know, the old roots were magical, not just pretty. However, for us to continue ritual in a way which is kind of empty, it's not without some benefit, some meaning. If we get caught up in society, we get to forget the need to connect with the deeper elements of our being. And at Christmas, although we celebrate it as a pleasure-filled remembrance of family, mainly, it's for the kids, they say, there is something that's awakened within us at Christmas time that's a deeper longing, a longing to reconnect with nature. Quite often, families go out for a Christmas walk, and they have the quietness of that day to reflect upon what nature is actually like. And we don't go to the office, and we don't go to the factory, and we don't get on a bus and drive in the car very much, and so on. To celebrate this specialness of nature. And this is absolutely in keeping, of course, with the holly and mistletoe. We bring nature into our homes. We allow the outside world to enter our preserves of comfort at Christmas time. Now, the cycle of life is celebrated by ritual, and that's, in a sense, the purpose of ritual is to set up this sense of, here it is again, let's remember it. Let's remember something that happens often, so often that we could forget. How often do we celebrate dawn? Can you think of anything more important when it's night time than that the sun rises soon? We forget that because it always does. And yet the ancient traditions, they would not forget that. They would greet the sun. They would get up just before the sunrise and do their dance or their singing prayer to the sunrise. And this sense we have of celebration of the cycles of life binds us back into something so much deeper and longer in its expression of being than our pathetic little puny lives. We're awakened into the sense that there's something grand and vast, of which we're a tiny, insignificant, temporary part. And yeah, there's a part of us that does not serve, because we do want self-proclamation. But the part of us which really yearns to know God will also need to forget self as well as remembering self. Those are the two aspects of being. We remember who we are so that we become magnificent, but we forget that we are in order to know a greater magnificence in the presence of God. And rituals, certain rituals, enable us to do that. Some rituals are just that we clean our teeth before going to bed. That's very important. Insignificant on one level because we do it all the time. It's not a ritual of any great spiritual significance, but it actually keeps our teeth working and absent of pain. And given the choice between having pain-free teeth on the one hand and the opportunity to pray on the other, however much you'd like to believe differently, you're going to want not to have painful teeth. So this ritual of cleaning your teeth or washing your hands after the toilet, or, these kind of taboos in a sense, in life. Do not eat pork if you're living in hot countries. They're invented to protect our survival, our healthy survival. They're by no means insignificant. Our attitude to rituals, however, say a lot about the functionality of the ritual. So if we bring our attention to the ritual of cleaning the teeth in a focused way, we do it properly, and we're not quick to finish. We do the job properly. We get into the little corners, and we maybe floss, and that's how that ritual is carried out. If you don't carry it out in the proper manner, it doesn't work. Now, taking that to the ritual of Christmas, if we celebrate the birth of Christ by getting pissed, then, which means drunk in England, that doesn't work. We don't remember Christ. If your ritual is to remember the cycle of life, then you need to do it with the right approach. In fact, there's no reason to remember Christ at Christmas. That's nothing to do with him. But to remember the winter solstice at that time of year, that's meaningful. The whole point of having a celebration at that time of year is that it's the darkest that it gets. The night is as long as it ever gets during that week. That's the point of that ritual. And if we forget that and we don't approach that fact with a sense of awareness, then the ritual is lost. Holly and mistletoe are very special in winter because they're alive, they're vibrant then, and not much is. It's because of the evergreen quality of holly that it's special at Christmas. We couldn't celebrate the Christmas festival with the oak tree, not in the northern latitudes, which is where these mysteries are directing our attention. Notwithstanding the need in a ritual for participation in a greater group consciousness, I'll say that differently. Within a ritual, we're concentrating our attention typically on the Christmas kind of aspect of ritual, on a group consciousness. We can't really celebrate the ritual aspect of Christmas alone. We need to be with people in order for that group soul to emerge temporarily. So if we celebrate these rituals religiously, the group aspect of that experience has the tendency to move us away from individuality towards non-self. And that's the functionality of the ritual. However, there will always be opportunity for self-expression within the context of the group soul. The group soul is raised and energized and expressed even through the individual, so that we're not looking to negate entirely our self at Christmas or any ritual. We're trying to actually align the self with a higher purpose, a group purpose. Some of these religious experiences and ritual have the function of supporting us in our needs, making life more comfortable, more easily workable, so that we can get what we want. But yet, some of them are not. They're exactly the opposite of that. They're challenging. They force us to develop different knowledge, different skills, different sense of how we employ our will. And these challenging rituals give us the most juice for growth. We want certain life experiences to be very demanding indeed. If they're not, then we simply can't grow. When faced with the decision about where to put our allegiance, we will come up with the understanding that that decision is enacted by the religious rituals that we choose to accept and engage with. The three obvious ones are birth, marriage, and death. And birth is followed by baptism, whereby you dedicate your child on its behalf to a certain religious path. Marriage does the same thing. You decide to live with somebody for a lifetime, theoretically, and you get the priest or whatever to bless that. It's not necessary. You can get married without church blessing, so we can make it a civil contract. It doesn't have to be a religious vow, but it is often for people. And death, we bury people with a sacredness, a sense of sacredness. Whereas the person, him or herself, they've gone, they're off somewhere else, leaving this decaying body. But we treat it with sacredness. And these rituals are the foundation of our civilization. Whichever society we choose to belong to, we will have the same attitude to those three things. We can extend that further by celebrating certain times of the year, as we've spoken about before. And our decision about which of these rituals to attend to is important. If you don't want to attend certain rituals, you choose to exclude yourself from aspects of the community that you're with. So it's important for us to make a decision about that. It doesn't really matter which decision you make, actually, but it does matter that you do make a decision. And the reason is that such a decision gives meaning to your life in the context of a greater time period. You bind in with the rhythms of life, the cycles of life that go back thousands of years quite often. And if you don't do that, then you live life on a level of shallowness. So we're discussing the impact of rituals as a deepening. And the purpose of the deepening is to discover the meaning within them. So if, for example, you decide to practice Christmas, this kind of means that you've agreed with the community that you're living with, that you'll be the people that celebrate Christmas. And that's not really only Christians anymore. Quite a lot of people celebrate Christmas who are not Christian. A great many. But if you choose not to do that, then you might celebrate winter solstice and mix with a different group of people. And making that decision stokes your will. That fires you up to be a person who stands for principle. And this challenging aspect of a ritual. Look, do you want to go to Christmas festivals or pagan festivals? To understand how to make that decision, you need to look into the ritual itself. Why do we celebrate Christmas in the way that we do? Why do we have a red and white Santa Claus? Do you know? Well, the answer is the Coca-Cola company. Actually, that's why Santa Claus is red and white. It's a marketing device. Why do, in Lithuania, for example, why do they eat 12 different types of food on the Christmas Eve meal? Well, that's so that they remember the disciples of Christ. You work out which is better for you and you do that. And we have to remember that a lot of the Christian traditions are not Christian traditions. They've been borrowed, stolen even, from what preceded them. Holly and mistletoe has nothing to do with Christmas, really. Why should it be? What's Christ got to do with holly or mistletoe? You never would have seen them. No, it's a pagan tradition, Christmas.